How to get out of your own way when it comes to networking. I'm Greg, I'm the introverted networker, and today I'm talking about a topic that came up this week in a conversation I had with a friend of mine. And she got in touch with me because she was struggling with her networking. And she just said to me, I can't get out of my own way, which is a really broad statement. And so I said, what do you mean you can't get out of your own way? Tell me what that looks like. And so she said, I'll be talking to people about what I do. I'll be talking to people about my business. And I feel awkward about trying to say, here's what I can do. Here's how I can help you. Or here's, why you should hire me. And the more we talked about it, there were a lot of things that went into this. And one was she's been running her business. She's been doing really well. She had some time off at the end of the year, and then she was jumping back into it this year. And she felt like she couldn't get new business going. And she said, I'm trying to network. I just feel like I can't get any traction. And so the more we talked about it, the more I kind of realized it comes down to this feeling we get that makes us feel awkward about networking. And I think I mentioned a couple episodes ago, people had been responding to my newsletter question that I asked them after they subscribed, which was, what's your biggest networking challenge? And I've been getting this a lot. I've been getting the option that says networking feels awkward. And some of that I've said, if you approach this and you give to other people, they're going to ask how you can help. And you can get over some of that awkwardness by not focusing on yourself. And so this kind of really came back to that is there's actually more to this than just asking other people about themselves and letting them talk and giving to them. Those are important things. Those are very important things. Those are key and where you should start. But it got me to thinking that sometimes networking is awkward because we are uncomfortable trying to tell people, hey, this is what I can do. This is how I'm gonna help you. We feel like we're trying to sell them in our conversations, and we feel like we're awkward because we don't want to say, hey, here's what I can do for you, hire me. And of course, nobody would say those exact words, but that's the underlying sentiment is people are having networking conversations with prospects, business prospects, or even if you were interviewing for a job, or if you were looking for a job and you needed help with somebody connecting you, you wouldn't just say, hey, I need a job. Can you help me? Because nobody's going to respond well to that. That's the sort of antithesis of what we talk about here all the time, is not being that person that just says, I need help. Can you get me a job? That's awkward. And most people don't do that. I mean, some people do. I still see it all the time. Some people will approach that way, and I'll hear people will send something in my inbox like, hey, do you have any jobs? And I'm like, does that work? No, it doesn't work. But I see that, and that's awkward for me to get that message. Hey, can you help me find a job? So of course I would never do that. And when it comes to business, I have people in my inbox all the time saying, hey, buy my service. And I think it must work for somebody because they keep doing it. But I would never do that because to me, that makes me feel awkward when I get that email pitching me their service. So I don't want to be that person. And I think most of us are like that. And I think that's the awkwardness that comes up in networking because we want to tell other people what we do. We want them to consider us as somebody that they would hire or somebody that they would talk to about a job or somebody they would refer in. We want to get help. And the challenge, I think, sometimes and what makes it awkward is we're making ourselves too hard to help. So if you remember my networking process, the fourth step is be easy to help. And be easy to help comes after the step that is listen and give. So after you've listened to somebody, you've tried to give to them, you've tried to help them out, and they turn around and say, how can I help you? You've got to be easy to help. And easy to help means being very specific. So if you are looking for a job and somebody says, how can I help you? Easy to help is your target company list. Easy to help is the name of the person you want to meet, or the type of person you want to meet, or the type of company you want to meet somebody in. But the more specific you can be, the better. Because the more specific you are, the more memorable you will be. And so what I mean by that is if you say to somebody, well, I'm just looking for a job, any job. Well, okay, great. There's millions of people in that situation. If you say you're going to do any job, how can I possibly start to find a job to help you? Like I can't even be on the lookout for jobs if you say I'll take any job, because I see tons of jobs. I can't refer you to all of them. But if you say, I'm looking to work in this industry, in this position, by the way, here's my top 10 companies I'd like to work at, I can now think to myself, do I know anybody that I can introduce you to? Do I know anybody in this industry? Do I know anybody that does this sort of work? Those are the kind of things that it sounds like you're narrowing your parameters on this, and it would be limiting. But in reality, when it comes to getting new people to help you, the more limited and specific you get, the easier you are to help. And so that happens when you're networking for customers too, because not everybody is your ideal customer. So as you're networking to find customers, you've got to get as specific on who you help and what it is you do, what problem you solve for them. And I've talked about this in previous newsletter issues before, and probably on different podcasts, that there are some really easy sort of scripts you can think about to narrow down what you do and who you help. And it reminds me, there's a TEDx talk. I've linked to it multiple times in this newsletter. I keep going back to it. I actually sent it to my friend who I was talking to yesterday. His name's Clay Hebert, and he talked about how to answer the question, what do you do? And that is a great question to always ask yourself, how you would introduce yourself in a social situation. What do you do? And again, the formula is I help X do Y. I help business people, not specific enough. I help HR leaders, maybe not specific enough. I help CHROs solve their retention issues. Okay, so I talk about the person, I talk about what I do for them, and maybe solve retention issues isn't specific enough. For me, on the Introverted Network, I teach introverts to be better networkers. That's what I say. That's my headline on my LinkedIn. That's what I say when somebody says, well, what do you do with networking? I teach introverts to be better networkers. It tells who, it tells what I do specifically. People know. And then they can say, well, that's interesting. How do you do that? And then I can tell them stories about my newsletter or LinkedIn or my book or people I've helped. I can go into more about what I do. Now, that's being easy to help. Why is that being easy to help? Because they know exactly what I do. They know the people I do it for. They know how I do it. So the next time they talk to somebody who says, I'm really struggling to network because I'm kind of introverted, who are they going to think of? Me. Like, I'm the last person that talked to them about introverts networking. Now, is every person who I say that to going to talk to somebody who's an introvert that needs help networking? No. But a lot of them do. And I know they do because they send them to me and they say, I heard about you from so-and-so, somebody who I talked to, somebody who I said, hey, this is what I do. So it works. And when you say, here's the problem I solve and the people I solve it for, and you say that in a networking conversation, when somebody says, how can I help you? And you say, well, here's what I do. And I'm looking for that person. I'm looking for those type of people, the people I help who have the problem that I solve. By doing that, that person walks away from that conversation and they know that when that topic comes up or when they meet one of those people, you're the first person they think of and they introduce you. Now, that's not immediate. So this is not going to get you a sale today. It's not going to get you a new customer today, unless they say, oh my gosh, I know exactly that person and I'd love to introduce you to them, which can happen. But the more specific you get, the more you drill into that, the more you get down to the exact person and the exact problem, the more people are going to associate you with that. And the more they're going to pay attention to that in the world, because you've planted that seed in their brain. You've planted it in their subconscious. And when those words get said in a conversation, they're going to think of you. That's how you get to be easy to help. That's how you use networking to find opportunities. So going back to my friend who I was talking to, she specializes in creating HR strategies for Series A startups. Very specific. She does HR strategy. She doesn't come in and hire people. She doesn't run payroll. She doesn't do the day-to-day. She creates the strategy. And she does it for not every company, not every size company, not public or private, Series A startups. Very, very specific. And so she goes to events that are startup events where you do networking, or where people are venture capitalists or private equity. And she goes there, and, now she can say, when somebody says, what do you do? And she can say, I create HR strategy for Series A startups. Now, if that person is a Series A startup, they might say, great, let's talk. That's exactly what I need. Or they may say, my company's bigger than that and more mature, but I do know some people who are in that stage. I would love to introduce you to them. And she hasn't had to say, hey, I can create this. I can create your HR strategy for you. Right? She's not pitching herself. She's saying, this is who I help. And then she's letting that person say, that's interesting. Tell me more about what you do. And then she can say, well, I helped this one company, and here's what I did for them, and here's all the examples and stuff. And so now that person even gets more information about her expertise. And when we had this conversation this week, and we talked about this, and I mentioned, hey, instead of trying to pitch yourself and feeling awkward about it, try this. And when she thought about it, she said, I've never even thought about it that way. And this totally changes it. Now, I don't really feel like it's going to be awkward. This is like, she has an event next week, and I was like, please tell me how it goes. But she's going to completely change her approach when she goes to this networking event and talks to people who potentially know her target customer. But just that simple thinking of not, hey, can I come do this for you? Or can you buy my service? Or can you talk to me about hiring me? But saying, here's what I do, here's the problems I solve, and here's who I do it for, can completely change that awkward feeling when it comes to networking. You're letting the other person make the associations and then figure out a way to help you, because, again, you were easy to help. So I don't know if that solves the awkwardness for everybody, because, like I said, I've been getting this awkwardness response a lot lately when people sign up for my newsletter. So if that helps, I would love to hear it. If it doesn't help and you're still feeling awkward, tell me what it is that makes networking awkward for you, because I'd love to dig into that a little bit more. But try this out. If you haven't created that sort of one line for yourself, it's a great thing to do. It doesn't matter if you have a job, if you're looking for a job, if you have a business and you're looking for new customers. If you can do that and you can get really specific on that, that can become your tagline. That can become your LinkedIn headline. You can put that everywhere, and you can say it in conversation. It will take away a lot of the awkwardness when people ask you about your business or the company you work for. I highly recommend trying to work on that as a exercise. But go out and give it a try. Let me know what your tagline or what your statement is. For what do you do? I would love to hear it. And go out this week. Have a great week. Meet some interesting people. Remember, always be connecting.